All right, what's up, guys? How's it going? I'm not gonna do a regular video on this one. No editing, no subtitles. Just want to give you all an update. If I do editing or subtitles, the video will never see the day of light. The light of day, because my ADHD has been so bad this year that I'm basically stuck in executive dysfunction paralysis. That's probably what I'm going to spend most of this video talking about, to be honest. But I do want to say, yes, I did fix the uh, the smoke detectors. The funny thing is, I actually remembered them. Oh, is that not heavy enough to keep it? Okay, it's not gonna fall, probably. We're gonna say that works. If I apologize if I make anyone motion sick if the phone falls over, but uh, the funny thing is, I actually noticed them, and I was going to change them before I recorded the last video, or it was just one at that point. But it's been annoying because like every couple days it was a new one. It was just that time of year. Well, I think it's been 2 years, maybe, like a year and a half since I installed all of them, and they just all started going bad at the same time, of course. So it was like for basically a week, it was constant because I would like replace one, and then I'd be good for most of the day, and then I'd be like laying down to sleep, and another one would start chirping. I don't have coffee, but I have something else. My parents are clearing out the Pittsburgh house, and I don't really buy beer, but they do sometimes for events and stuff. They used to do like poker and things like that. They brought up three three, two bottles and one can of alcohol. We're going to crack one of the beers today. I'm not a big beer drinker in general, but I do love a good craft beer. And they actually brought up one of my favorites. I haven't had this in many years. We've got a Sam Adams Summer Ale. I love wheat beers. They're one of my favorite classes of beer. Specifically, this is a wheat ale brewed with lime, orange, and lemon peels, grains of paradise, and lemon puree added. The back of it says a bright citrus wheat ale bursting with orange, lemon, lime, and grains of paradise. Perfect for any summer day. I was going back and forth about which one to crack first. The other one, I don't know if I've ever had the other one, but it's from an amazing, one of the best craft breweries of all time, Trogs, or however the fuck you say it, Troegs. They make the Troganator, so I guess it's Trogs, and all kinds of other wonderful things. We'll tell you which one that is when I crack it. But the reason I chose this one specifically today is because of the grains of paradise, and like that light is just causing everything to be all fucking blasted out. I tried to find a different light setup that wouldn't just have that light over saturating everything or overexposing everything, or I guess underexposing me but overexposing the light, if we want to be very petty and nerdy about it. uh, this whole thing is going to be rambling, by the way, just so you're aware. So if you can't handle that, might as well just swipe on to the next video, because, like I said, my ADHD is absolutely out of control right now, and I haven't been able to get help for it. And that's what I want to rant about today, you know? But before I do that, um, I chose this beer specifically when I read the Grains of Paradise thing. It said the taste of paradise, whatever, at the end. And it made me think of two people in particular when I read that. Two people who have tragically passed away very recently. Uh, the first and probably more well known, not probably, definitely, one of the most well known and iconic personalities of all time, one of the few universally beloved celebrities, Dolly Parton, has unfortunately passed away. The other one was much more shocking. A younger, also blonde woman, only a year older than me, which is crazy. Hayden Pantier, I think that's how you say her name. She is. I know her from two things, but she's primarily known from Heroes, which is one of the things I know her from. She was the cheerleader, Save the Cheerleader, Save the World. Uh, I guess we didn't save the cheerleader, which makes sense because the world is fucked anyways. But there's actually a different cheerleader I want to save. But that's, I'm sorry. I just can't keep my focus right now. So this is important. So I need to stay focused. This is what untreated adult ADHD looks like when it's manageable, by the way. You don't want to see it when it's unmanageable. So I also know her from Remember the Titans. She was in that movie. I'm pretty sure she was the coach's daughter. She is one of those Hollywood child stars and had to deal with all the stuff that comes with that, to say the least. They're still investigating her death, but we pretty much know what happened. Let's just say that her boyfriend told first responders that they arrived that he administered Narcan, and I'll let you guys put the pieces together from that. But regardless, it's very sad that both of these two very talented and inspiring women have passed away. They're up in paradise now. So, cheers to Dolly Parton and Hayden Pantier. It's a taste of paradise for you. It's really sad. I don't have much else to say about that. I could go on random tangents, you know. I've been to Dollyville or whatever she's got a theme park that was like her whole park. And there's fun stories from there. Actually, you know what? Fuck it. I think this was the park. This is like one of the weirdest stories I ever had. So, throughout my entire life, I've had this really, really weird phenomenon that I experience where insanely attractive girls come up to me and ask me to spend time with women who are not conventionally attractive at all, to say the least. Uh, I went to my, uh, one of my sister's dances once. So at some point, my sister went to a different school than I. She's only a year behind me. But like, I just went there to hang out and have fun. And like, it was weird because like, one, I didn't know anyone there. But two, it was like, I was getting more attention from girls than I ever had at my own school. But a lot of it was just like, hey, can you dance with this weird girl that doesn't shower? And I have to admit, like, I've always done my best to be kind and patient with people, but especially back, that was like, I think that would have been, I think that would have been her, like, eighth grade dance or whatever, maybe. Yeah, because it would have been her middle school. We went to different middle schools, ended up going to the same high school. And back then, I did not have even remotely the same level of patience that I do now. I've always been dedicated to humble service, so I was like, sure, whatever. But after like the third or fourth time, where it was just like, I didn't get to dance with any of the pretty girls. I had to dance with all the weird girls. It would have, I feel like if even one of the pretty girls had been like, hey, thanks for dancing with all those other girls. You want to dance with me once? I would have kept going. But it was all just like, hey, can you hop on these grenades for us? And I don't say that to be rude. It was just the reality of the situation. And a man can only take so much shrapnel to the chest. That's all I'm going to say, you know? But this situation, it was totally different. It was actually one of the fondest memories I have because we went to Walmart, right? Before we went to this Dolly Parton place. And there were like this like group of four girls that were like whispering and looking at me and stuff. And um I was like, okay, whatever. Weird. It's always been weird for me because I know I'm not a pretty guy. All right. But so we go and we get to the actual amusement park, this Dolly Parton themed amusement park. I don't remember what it was called, but it was like Dollyville or something like that. And these girls are there entering the same park as we were. So they were like, one of the girls came up to me and she was like, hey, uh, it, it's also possible this may have been Hershey Park for whatever reason that this happened at, but my brain, it's telling me it was Dollyville. Although, for whatever reason, part of me wants to say Hershey now. It was one of the two, but we're just gonna continue with the story regardless of what park it was at, right? So there's like the prettiest girl in the group, obviously like the ringleader, comes up to me. She's like, "Hey, my one friend in the wheelchair. She wasn't like just in a wheelchair. She had some kind of disability or something. Probably a slight developmental disability or whatever too. It was pretty obvious, right? But not in like a way that she was like struggling to participate in society. Just clearly disabled, couldn't get out of the chair on her own type stuff. So her friend comes up, she's like, hey, my friend thinks you're really cute. Would you like to come ride rides with us? I think there were three because like they were down because like having me made it like an even number, you know? And she was like, "We promise it won't be anything weird or anything," because she could tell I was like a little wary at first, especially because I was still kind of young at this point. This was like, I think one of the first time like a girl had ever like openly and directly expressed interest in me like that type thing, even if it was like through a friend. And I was like, man, I don't know. But eventually, she was like, we promise it won't be anything weird or like, you won't get handsy or anything like that. It's just, we just want you to ride rides with us. And plus, I have to admit, I'm a little bit of a shithead. The reason that she eventually convinced me to agree to it was she was like, since our friend is handicapped, we just get to skip to the front of the lines, and sometimes they even let us just stay on the ride. And I was like, okay, you know? But it's like, when I think of The I didn't stay with them the whole time because this is why I'm pretty sure it was Dollyville, or was it? Because now I'm wondering, someone got sick during Dollyville. I don't know, dude. I have like, my brain is just absolutely fried right now. It just doesn't work properly. But the point is of that whole thing. I believe that's something, regardless of whether it happened at like her amusement park or not. I believe that's something that Dolly Parton would have smiled upon because she went out of her way to help people in need, do little acts of kindness and stuff like that. So much of what I've seen on Twitter is stuff like, oh, like she's the reason like my kids had books to read when I couldn't afford to do it because of this program she started. And it's just so cool that she did all these things. And it's a shame that she's passed. So one more for Dolly Parton in particular. Now, as for the ADHD, I've been doing my best, guys. I promise. It's just absolutely brutal. I struggle to get dressed most days. I just have, I basically have swap between staring at the wall, unable to make myself get up out of the chair, just like contemplating the deep mysteries of the universe, or having theoretical conversations in my head that will literally never happen. And then when I do manage to make myself get up and go do something, I will just pace around the house, unable to remember why I stood up and what I got up to do. It's so bad that sometimes I go to unlock my phone, and by the time I've finished unlocking my phone, I forget why I was unlocking my phone. So, to really put it into perspective, this time last year, I was averaging about 60, maybe 60 plus hours of work a week. Right now, I'm struggling to do 6. And this is a problem because if I don't manage to get back up to at least 20 by the end of the year, I'm going to lose my benefits, which means one, I lose any hope of treating my ADHD, and two, I'm gonna starve to death, right? If I can't work and I can't get food through benefits, then I'm just gonna die. That's the reality of it. I It may not be apparent to a lot of people. Some people, I'm sure it is, but I think other people don't see it in me. I actually have a massive ego. Look, I can just put my giant ass forehead in front of it, and then it's not overexposed anymore. That was why I did the angle here, was to try and get rid of the light, but it's just in the wrong spot. I actually have a massive ego, probably the biggest you have ever seen. It was really, really difficult for me to admit I needed help that go on benefits in the first place. It literally took you guys. Some people from the stream would show up when I lost my job, and they were like, "Bro, this is why you've literally paid into it for 15 years in case something like this happened, right?" And it honestly, even that wasn't enough. it it just opened the door a little bit so that whenever I got to the point where I was like out of savings and just truly struggling to survive, I bit the bullet and applied, right? Over the past couple of years, I've dealt with like migraines and this ADHD stuff, which has made it hard to work. And there have been people that told me to apply for disability, but I don't want to do that. I want to do everything I can to avoid that, especially because I like I see examples of people on disability who shouldn't be on disability and are getting way too much money, and I just don't want to contribute to that problem in any way, shape, or form. So anything I can do to stay off disability, I will do. So that's why when my migraines got so bad that I couldn't just work a regular scheduled job, I just switched to gig work, right? That way I could just sleep off the migraines on the bad days and work on the good days extra amount of time. And I don't need to worry about whether or not uh, I had to call off 3 days in a row because I was just getting brutalized by migraines. So I've always just found ways to survive, right? And if I don't get this figured out by the end of the year, I don't see any other option besides applying for disability because otherwise I'm losing my benefits because I can't work. You know, it's ironic. And it's not like I haven't been trying to figure this ADHD thing out either. Um, when I first noticed that I was really, really struggling to put in hours because of ADHD. So this whole year, I haven't been quiet this whole year because of ADHD. At the beginning of the year, I was mostly dealing with demons, right? Just going head to head with old trauma, cutting out the scar tissue so healthy stuff could replace it. And I've done most of that, to be honest. Like, I'm way, way better in that respect than I have been in, say, 5 or 6 years at this point. Like pre COVID, I've the best, besides the ADHD issue, the best overall mental health I've had since before quarantine. So I'm proud of that, but I feel I'm not sure if it's just the combination of all the stress I've been going through lately, or just me getting older or being in a different environment, or if the process of battling those demons actually broke my brain more and really maxed out the ADHD to the point where it became full on executive dysfunction paralysis. But um, for basically the entire summer, I've been trying to get help. It started early July, and I have not been able to get an ADHD evaluation yet. What is it now? It's the end of August. I'm really bad at the month order. I have to count, I have to go through like all of them every single time in my head to figure out which one's which. Except for October. I have that one memorized for two reasons. One, because it's my birth month, and two, because it's fucking got an 8 as the I forget what the dude. I can't even remember what the parts of a word are called right now. But the first part of the word, oct is octo, which means 8, because at one point it was the 8th month of the calendar, but now it's actually the 10th month of the calendar, but it was never renamed to Dectober. So that one is always burned into my brain. So what? September is 9. Then this is August, so that's 8. Uh, See, I can't do it backwards. What was before this? January, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. So I actually started. I've been 2 months. 2 months. I've been trying to get an appointment for an ADHD evaluation so I don't starve to death. This is unacceptable, right? I have never experienced this kind of delays in the American healthcare system before. I know the American healthcare system is far from perfect, but when I hear of a healthcare system that it takes 2 months to get the help you need, I expect that from Canada or the UK. I've heard that the UK is actually so bad when it comes to ADHD treatment that many people don't even seek ADHD drugs and just start using meth in the UK. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I heard when I was doing research on ADHD medications. So, and mind you, this is just the very first step, right? Uh, this was just to get a referral. I finally, after 2 months, managed to get a referral, but now I've got to wait up to 2 weeks for them to process a piece of paper that I can read in 30 seconds. And then I need to figure out when they're going to schedule me for an appointment. And because this is a specialist, so there is a different medical thing I scheduled recently that I actually scheduled 2 months out and I was fine with it, which is an ENT. That's ear, nose, throat specialist. And with my plan to start releasing music and to come back to content creation full time, speaking and all that, I am again, because I don't like doctors. I don't trust doctors. They always fuck me over and give me the runaround. I just want solutions. I don't want to be strung along. I don't want your half-ass, cover your ass stupid bullshit. Just fucking fix the problem, you know? This is going to be the second ENT I've gone to. The one I went to in Pittsburgh was woefully incompetent. I tried explaining my symptoms to him, and he just was so fucking dumb that when I told him my symptoms, he was like, "Well, that's just simply impossible. So I'm going to ignore that entirely." I promise you, any good doctor would never say anything like that. That is how you know that's like the worst doctor you've ever been to in your life. Because here's the thing, even if the symptoms that you're describing are literally impossible or specifically for that issue not possible, those symptoms still exist, right? So any decent doctor, not even a good doctor, any decent doctor is going to be like, okay, well, what is actually the root cause of these symptoms, and we'll treat that. This guy was just pathetic and lazy and incompetent in every single way. And so to this day, I still have a terrible post-nasal drip. It makes it incredibly difficult for me to sing because for about like the first 10 to 20 minutes of warm up, I am just hacking up a whole bunch of phlegm that's been collecting in my lungs, right? And it's also bad for my throat in general. Um, it causes my tone to be gurgly. It's incredibly frustrating. I have to swallow constantly all day long. And the primary cause of it, the guy even did an x-ray, but just didn't want to fix it. This was also the primary cause of many of my migraines for a while, though those were partially due to the house back in Pittsburgh too. The house back in Pittsburgh wasn't clean, and I had no capability to clean it because my parents, for all intents and purposes, they were hoarders, right? It took me, it wasn't that I didn't try cleaning it, it's just that it was impossible for one man to do. It took me nearly a year to clean out a hallway and get a bathroom functioning again. There was a hallway on the second floor that the entire hallway, like it started where this upstairs bathroom had been like a secondary storage room for them. They filled up the entire upstairs bathroom with this secondary storage room, and then the filled up the entire hallway, floor to ceiling, too. So one of the first things I did when I moved back into the Pittsburgh house was I spent probably 8 months cleaning out that hallway and fixing the bathroom so that I could like have a relatively clean bathroom located outside of my bedroom, right? And there was endless dust, endless pet hair, endless black mold in the place. And that coupled with my sinus issues, which I forgot to say specifically what that is. I have a 90% deviated septum with a spur. That means 90% of my airflow comes out of one nostril. And what would happen is with all that mold and dust and everything else in the air, if I did not take Sudafed, and I mean the real Sudafed, the stuff they make meth out of, if I did not take Sudafed before I went to sleep every night, I would wake up with a migraine. Because what would happen is the side that all my air through flow goes through would clog up, and then I'd spend the entire night with 10% airflow, right? And when I told the guy, that was one of the things that I told the guy. I'd be like, yeah, so this nostril will be 100% entirely blocked when I wake up. He's like, well, that doesn't sound possible. He's like, well, I don't care if it sounds possible or not. It's what happens. I will like literally not be able to push air through it, even if I seal the other nostril, until I would go in the shower, fucking crank the shower as hot as possible, and steam my goddamn nose out. Hold on, the cat's begging to be let in. What's up, Charlie? Really? Okay. So, I did schedule with a new ENT up here, and that was like 2 months out. But I'm like, whatever. That's not really an emergency per se, because my income, my ability to support myself is not on the line, especially now that up here it's just me and the cat. So all I need to do is clean up after myself. Now, to be fair, my parents have been bringing stuff up from the Pittsburgh house while they clean it up, and a lot of that stuff is dirty. I did find some mold here for the first time the other day, and I'm not sure whether or not that was me not being able to clean as much because of my ADHD, or the fact that they probably brought mold spores up when they brought that shit up from the old house. I'm gonna say it's a little bit of both, but needless to say, I was not happy. I'm going to be taking some precautions with the things they've been bringing up, but the problem is I don't have the mental capacity to do that right now. Like there are days I get partially dressed and that's the best I can do. I will put socks on and boxers on and that my I spend that I spend the entire day in that state because I'll like get up to go put my jeans on, and by the time I get to my pants, I forgot that I went to my pants to go put my pants on. Like, I don't think you guys realize how bad, just how debilitating unchecked ADHD can be. And I'm doing my best. I promise. I miss you guys so much. All I want to do is create content for you in some form or another. I have massive, huge plans. I'm starting to move on. And I'm actually doing a little bit of that right now because I just have these 2 dead weeks at the moment, right? Where I finally got the referral, but I just have to wait 2 fucking weeks for them to drag their feet while I'm not able to support myself in any way, shape, or form because I just can't wake up and go to work. It's frustrating. I feel so broken and I don't know how to fix myself. And the whole system just keeps fucking me over, basically. But I have like these 2 dead weeks where I don't know what to do. And I'm not an anxious person, but it's giving me anxiety like I've never really had before, right? Because it's like I've done everything I can to fix myself at this point, and now I just need to wait for a system that doesn't care about me to decide how much it's going to fuck me over. So what I've actually been doing this week since I got that referral all straightened out is I've just been letting the ADHD win. I've started like 3 new different projects over the course of the past 2 days. And I'm like, whatever, it's gonna happen. I started writing a memoir because uh, it was in response to the Hayden Pantier memoir. The idea is you have all these, like, she's basically my age 36, I'm 35, I'm gonna be 36 in October, passed away. She's got a memoir already, and obviously she's done things that are more noteworthy by leaps and bounds, but that's pretty much the point. My idea is I want to, I probably won't sell. I feel like I'll be lucky to sell 100 copies, you know? But my idea is a memoir from the point of view of the gifted underachiever, right? Because everyone always talks about the gifted kids that got abandoned by society, but no one ever really acknowledges us. So I just want to kind of put it out there and be like, this is what it was like growing up as one of those kids and see what happens. What other projects did I start this week? Well, I've been working on a project I've been planning for a long time. Eventually, I want to start like an international search and rescue organization. And we're going to have floating, for lack of a better term, hospital ships with life flight helicopters on them. And so, one of the things I've been doing over the past several months is actually researching different helicopters to see which ones make the best life flight helicopters. Uh, I've narrowed it down. So, there's a small proof of concept ship that I want to make. That instead of a full size converted container ship, it's just going to be an offshore supply vehicle. uh, or vessel, I think they're called OSV, and it's going to house a single chopper, some basic, a single light twin. So for nautical operations, you need twin engine helicopters to be nautical certified. And specifically, it needs to be a twin engine that can stay in the air on only one engine if one of the engines goes down. Or if it's a tri engine, it needs to be able to stay in the air with two engines. Basically, it needs to continue operating if it loses an engine. So um, the golden standard. Well, hold on, Charlie, you distracted me, and it's worse than normal right now. Um, I'm gonna do a smaller version. That's a proof of concept, which is just a light twin engine and a helicopter pad, some basic search and rescue and firefighting equipment, and like a basic infirmary, right? Just This is going to serve two purposes. One, to make sure the concept works, iron out any little tweaks and stuff like that. And two, this will, even once I have like the full size container ship with at least two helipads on it that can support much larger aircraft, uh, this will serve as like the training vessel for when I recruit new crew members. Go mess around with the light twin on the small ship, and then once you're well accustomed to that, you can get to the medium twin or the heavy lift twin on the larger ship. As for those planes, those helicopters, we're looking at an AW 139, which is pretty much considered the golden standard of life flight helicopters. It's a medium twin engine, and it's pretty much guaranteed to be able to land at most hospitals around the world. If you get much larger than that, you're running into um, either weight or I forget what it's called. There's an area around the helicopter that needs to be cleared, not just of obstructions, but also for the rotor downwash and stuff like that. So the cool thing about the AW 139 is it's a medium light twin. Technically, both helicopters are medium twins, but this is a medium twin on the light end. The other one's going to be a medium twin on the heavy end. And it's pretty fast, pretty fuel efficient, and it's one of the most commonly used, or maybe not the most commonly used, but the golden standard of life flight helicopters. They're a little expensive. There's some cheaper options out there, like the Bell, I think, has one. Like a lot of those. No, get down. You're not supposed to be on the table, and you know that. Come on. You can sit on my lap, but you can't be on the table. Or you can go down on the ground. Do you want to go inside? Is that what it is? I'll open the door and you can go inside, but I don't want. I've been keeping the door closed more because I've had a problem with bugs this summer. I think part of it is because I've been leaving the door open a little more too because Charlie's been sitting out here on the porch and stuff. But anyways, what was I saying before the cat distracted me? Oh yeah, so the Augusta Wyland, which is what AW stands for, but not all AW aircraft are Augusta Wyland because there's like, I'm not sure if it was a merger or a takeover or what, but many AW crafts are actually created by Leonardo. Uh, so the this is like the golden standard. The second helicopter that I want to get on that. Sorry, my nose just got real itchy. I don't know why. And probably like a gnat flew up in it or something that I didn't see. The second helicopter that I want to get on that larger container ship, once I have it, then I can support medium or heavy helicopters with a larger uh, landing pad is going to be an Airbus H225. This is at like the upper end of what you would reasonably be able to fit on a uh, hospital landing pad, and it's quite possible it won't be able to fit on a lot of hospital landing pads. But it serves more as a search and rescue and utility chopper. It's not quite as fast, but it's excellent for maritime operations because it's got unique built-in de-icing rotors. It's also got a much heavier lift capacity and a larger passenger cabin. So it would be able to do things like move pallets of water or carry a bunch of refugees or walking wounded and things like that. And then like at the very end, this is how I like know. Well, oh, there's one other. There's an AW 101, I think, which is an actual heavy lift helicopter that can lift even more than the H225. That's a tri-engine helicopter that basically has enough lift capacity to even deploy small prefabs or vehicles or things like that. So, um, what I wanted, like my end goal though, is there's this really cool new aircraft coming out from Leonardo called the AW609. And again, it's even though it's Leonardo, it's AW, which is Augusta Wyland, because of like originally theirs and someone else's, I think. There's been three different companies involved with this aircraft, but basically what it is it's a civilian version of the Osprey. It looks really cool. I suggest you look it up, AW609, and that would be an incredible boon to this mission because it won't have the same access to certain areas as say the AW139 because not only is it much heavier, but especially because it's got two separate rotors, it needs significantly more area to land and operate effectively. However, it's got something like three times the range and probably twice the speed. I didn't actually mathematically compare them like that, but because it can switch into standard flight mode, which is similar to uh, regular turboprop flight at that point, it's got much greater range and much greater speed. In addition to that, because it looks more like a small commuter jet, there's a lot more cabin space to the point where you can basically turn it into a flying ICU, or you can evacuate large groups of refugees or walking wounded at the same time. So that's been something I've been planning for years, but haven't really ever talked about before, except for maybe hinted at a couple times in my content. And what I've been doing while I can't focus on anything, uh, I found that like when my ADHD is out of control, it's just like the kind of like autistic obsessions take over. So instead of fighting them, I have been installing flight simulators, like legit flight simulators. I'm not talking about like No Man's Sky arcadey shit. You just bump off stuff. No, I have. I've had DCS World for a long time, which is only partially helpful because it's unique. I think exclusively a military aircraft flight sim. So they do have some trainer aircraft. I think they start you with the TF51D, which is the trainer version of the Mustang that is uh, two passenger instead of single pilot. and I don't believe it has the weaponry on it. However, there are some things that are very, very close. For example, I haven't been able to find a true to actual flight specs AW139. There are other sims that have an AW139 in it, but they're uh, either the actual mechanics of the sim don't replicate real flight mechanics to the point where you can't actually train real flying with it, or that it's like a community mod that isn't necessarily up to the standards of being entirely accurate. However, it is very, very similar in operation to the Blackhawk. It's about the same size, has similar amounts of power. It is both the Blackhawk and the um, AW139 are twin engine light mediums. So what I'm going to do to learn to fly the AW139 is learn to fly the simulation of the Blackhawk in DCS World. There's another one I'm using, which is much easier to set up because it's Linux native. It's called Flight Gear. That one, I'm going to be mostly learning airships in it. There's also a Cessna 172 that I can use to learn basic single piston flight. And the main reason I want the airships is because the the container ship is just the start of the plan. Eventually, I want airships so we can go deep inland, right? Because even with the AW609s that have extended range over the helicopters, if we're based off a container ship, there's only so far we can go inland, especially in a massive contiguous landmass like Africa or the continental United States, right? To actually be able to reach everyone in the world, uh, I'd either need to have bases staged in every country, which is not feasible in any way whatsoever, or I'd need some way to um, get deep inland with expending few resources and having great endurance, and that's where airships come in, right? So I not only that, but airships even after the worst part of the disaster's over and we no longer need the heavy gear like the hospital ship or the medevac choppers or the heavy lift choppers. The airship can stay behind and do things like provide infrastructure support or communications uh, to areas that are blacked out and haven't rebuilt their communications. I want to equip the container ship with SMRs, which are small modular reactors. They're basically nuclear reactors that are not much bigger than an 18 wheeler. And like they, some of them actually fit in shipping containers, I think, or at least they're working on that. And I'd probably have one of those in the airship, assuming that wouldn't be too heavy for the airship because those things are heavy as fuck. Or regardless, the airship would have power generation capabilities that it could help supply power to disaster areas, all kinds of stuff. I'm running out of time. I want to keep this under an hour so I don't need to split it in multiple parts. But eventually, so I have flight gear installed for that. But eventually, I want to expand this to be the first space ambulance. Excuse me. Trump's out there creating the Space Force. I want to create space firefighters, basically. And that's what the organization will become eventually. Now, we're decades away from that. I probably won't live to see that day. I'm just building the architecture now. But because of that, just in case, I don't have it yet because it's one that I need to buy. I have DCS World from years ago because I've always been obsessed with airplanes. I originally got it to learn to fly the A10 because when I was in college and high school, I wanted to go and be an Air Force pilot that flew A10s. So it's like wanted to at least live out that fantasy through the simulations, right? But um, I'm repurposing DCS World by installing these community mods, or I don't think there's any paid DLC that accurately represents the. Oh, there is one thing. So I also want to learn to just fly regular Cessnas, specifically the Cessna 340A and 414A. And the closest thing to those, apparently, uh, as far as like accurately modeling flight mechanics and control systems, is the Mosquito, which is a paid DCS World mod, but probably years away from buying that. Let's be honest. I'm not. I've put $0 into any of this. I want to be clear because I started out with how I can't even really afford to make ends meet right now. This is all free stuff. You can look it up. Flight Gear is a free flight simulator with like 160 different free aircraft that's just on their main thing. I think you can add other libraries, but like they're less reliable, you know? So going into being the first space ambulance, what I want to do for that is just space planes. Um, where there are new space planes essentially that can take off and land effectively as a single stage. They have what's basically a hybrid scramjet and rocket. A scramjet is the type of jet that's used on planes like the SR-71 Blackbird. Uh, and in fact, the SR-71 Blackbird is a precursor to modern space planes. It can't actually go into orbit because it lacks the hybrid part of the engine. So it needs to stay within atmosphere so that the jets still work. However, what happens with these hybrid space planes is they basically take off like an SR-71 and function almost identical, and then once they reach the maximum flight ceiling of those scramjets, they switch to the rockets on and take themselves the rest of the way they orbit, and then they recover very similar to the way that a space shuttle does. Similar type of reentry. So eventually, I have actually the space shuttle and the X-15, which is another type of hypersonic plane. Although I think that's one that is specifically launched from like a mother plane. Uh, but there's this other one that specifically models the orbital mechanics very well, called Orbiter 12, I think. And I found out apparently Kerbal Space Program, if you install 3 mods, is actually one of the most accurate spaceplane simulations in the entire world, which is hilarious because I always thought it was like physics light or fun physics. But anyways, uh, I can't create content right now. There have been multiple times I opened up OBS and I just wasn't able to hit the live button. I'm hoping that it won't take 2 weeks. They said 1 to 2 weeks to process it. But anyways, that's the update. I'm not gonna give the outro because I'm running out of time. Yeah, this was an hour of ADHD. I love all you guys. I'll keep posting when I can. Hopefully, my brain will start working by next month. Peace.